Hi, my name is Jarrard and I did my project on the Patriot Act. The USA Patriot Act stands for Uniting and Strengthening America by providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct terrorism act, and was signed into law by George Bush after the attacks on 9/11. The Patriot Act greatly increased the surveillance powers of intelligence and law enforcement agencies and was originally intended to make Americans feel secure by intercepting and obstructing these terrorist acts. It was an extremely controversial act because it greatly increased surveillance powers of different government agencies. A lot of people believe this to be a violation of their constitutional rights. There were a few sections that granted powers to the agencies that were extremely controversial, including Section 203, which allowed the sharing of information between intelligence agencies and other part of the government, Section 206, which allowed one wiretap authorization to cover multiple devices, and Section 215, which allowed easier access to business records for investigations. More includes Section 218, which lowered the bar for getting wiretaps and search warrants, Section 213, which allowed sneak and peek warrants. Sneak and peek warrants let authorities search a location without immediately notifying a target. Section 805, which expanded the ban on giving material support to terrorist groups. All these were so controversial because they allowed the government to tap into people's lives and spy on them without any resistance, which made a lot of people uncomfortable. Sneak and peek warrants are especially controversial because they allow law enforcement to gain entry onto a private property without the owner's knowledge. And although this act was meant to primarily prevent terrorism, all of these powers, including the sneak and peek warrants, were permissible in court for any federal crime, including misdemeanors. There's been only one Supreme Court decision on the Patriot Act, and this case was known as Holder versus the Humanitarian Law Project. It dealt with Section 805, which expanded the ban on giving material support to terrorist groups. The Humanitarian Law Project gave material aid to two groups who were designated terrorists by the U.S., and after the Patriot Act was passed, this aid became illegal, even though it wasn't meant to support violence, only to help the citizens in the area that were controlled by the terrorist groups. In the end, the Supreme Court ruled that Section 805 was not unconstitutionally vague and was permissible in court. They also stated that even though the groups weren't directly supporting the violent acts of the terrorist groups, they were freeing up resources that could be redirected by these terrorist groups into violent activities. Executive Order 13224 gave the government a way to disrupt financial support for terrorist groups. It accomplished this by giving the U.S. Department of State and Justice the ability to block assets of those who were known to provide aid and support to known terrorist groups. This was one of the first steps towards the Patriot Act. In conclusion, the Patriot Act was meant to keep Americans safe. However, it was actually a violation of our right to privacy. Because it was written extremely vaguely, intelligence agencies gained an excess of authority to spy on American citizens. To answer the essential question, should Americans give up some liberties to be more safe and secure? The answer is no. Privacy is an essential part of the freedoms guaranteed to us by the Constitution and is required of a truly free state. Even though the Patriot Act had good intentions of keeping Americans safe and secure, it stripped us of our privacy by giving too much power to intelligence agencies.